Siodw Shiaght Laa, as Babalia Musaltacha. She Robert a Carslach Mish. I'm Bob Carswell, and I'd like to welcome you to Shiaght Laa. This time in Shiaght Laa, a hir Sean Shiaght Laa. Tullu by Luna Erish Leo Scanshoil Edra Shunach, more from the launch of an important international journal. As date and Sonda ye learn, and dates for your diary, as we look at some of what's coming up in the course of the next week. For the Manx Grand Prix and the Classic TT, you can go along to Douglas, where you'll find North Quay Live, a free musical celebration on the quayside from 6:30. So they'll not long have started this evening, Thursday the 20th of August, when there's music with the Red Hot Chili Yisses. Tomorrow evening, Friday the 21st, there's music from Nathan Thompson and from 995. On Saturday the 22nd, Jamie Blackburn will be playing, and also the Mad Dog Davis Band. And then on Sunday the 23rd, it'll be Spotty Dog. That's North Quay Live, a free musical jamboree there on Douglas Quayside, and there's another long weekend of music there next week, so we tell you about that next time. There'll be some more diary dates later. De slice munion de wel edder kweektauzen de schaartauzen de glerigen maas de pavel en grunje. Ach, te greide ne dolie ne kuurten, tiggel ne derglair lieton, ne voor die der voglair jenon chinje. Ach, de glair genoimme je grammatus, de heidje maag per sample wel riddentager nish, rawet gulle geno se treis jo chai, na bella der chi vegint. As quai na kirid te genu riddenach, as quai na kirid veginuwer. Te foglerien reinit lortie glair, as lesje grammatus, as lesje tash de oglanton, te sly cor as gedden fis, as for the lortie grey riddin te rehegel, gen a rowan re shen heen, ruon ro shen. Becasles ginteg Eleanor as a velg René Magritte, as a casles va fiebragen, and so's the fieb on to sly smookel tombega. Ach, ma durt Magritte on zenema casles, ce n'est pas une pipe. As son shigeres chanel, she casles J peeped on. Ach, the sly Jane castlesen as tiggel na bison, gen a veliach castles der housenach gintlesh paint. J riddenach 3000 tons a tail riech, as gintas, well, meerschaum na nid mosen, benten den pieb. Sjen rid gedden lesh glair, ge de wel vogel eg slice a tash dogelok, de wat a tiggel de wel sly lord mechon en rid sjen lie tons a tail riech, genelli de fear ach kaura jen rid sjen. Ma bis gilgeren chit mode, mo sample, sjen kaura jen weg sjen. Ach, ons glede genelje, ta shien de ballach an gasle, chit onweg. Dog se veul, chien se rangish, hund se Germanisch, perro se Spanish, maar zo kachleen kaura son an onweg. Ach, welle an onweg. De henmen chit de bij kolchanelrisch troen kolchanelrischen ritjen, as maar zo en chartanstig o woediesen, voor die de wel sly gin body, maar solach, ne kagoil as baggertach. Ach, ons ko woedies nelje, dat gin arum maar kurgen scher denje. Maar zo genel voglen chit, gin voogroggeles semantach, kolchaneltru. In academic articles, authors sometimes go to great lengths to give a very specific meaning to a word or a phrase they want to use, and that's because words and phrases rarely come without associations, without connotations, and it all comes down to semantics. Language is linked with social conventions of the society within which it's used, but different language communities may also share different social conventions. So having access to more than one language also gives a broader range of ways of understanding objects, events and ideas and their place in the world. At Chroniac this year there was the launch of a special double edition of the International Journal of the Sociology of Language, which explores aspects of the way languages are used and develop. And last time in Shiaght Laa we heard the official part of that launch by the two editors, who also contributed their own papers, and both are Manx-speaking academics from the island, who are working internationally in this field. Dr. Chris Lewin, currently of the University of Edinburgh, and Dr. Erin McNulty, currently of University College Cork, though both have been involved in other universities as well. Discussion opened up with contributions from some of the other authors of papers who were present. Erin McNulty poses a question, and first to reply is Ruth Keggin Gell, the Manx Language Development Officer of Culture Vannin, and she's joined by her co-author of a paper for the journal, Director of Culture Vannin, Breesha Maddrell.
The question of what made you interested in Manx to begin with is probably a very long and convoluted one. So I wonder if you might discuss what made you interested in getting involved in this kind of special issue, other than the fact that we asked you to do it.
So I'm Ruth. I work with Breesha at Culture Vannin, and I'm very much a practitioner rather than having an academic background in linguistics. My background is in music, and that's how I got into the language in the first place. Through wanting to sing in Manx, but not just making the sounds. I wanted to be able to actually understand what I was singing, and then got more and more and deeper into it. And as you'll have seen before, our title had the three areas of community, creativity and cooperation, not in that order, but that is a massively central part of what we do at Culture Vannin, and it was very exciting to be able to be asked to contribute to this journal edition or this issue, to be able to kind of, I suppose, shine a light on that sort of importance for language revitalisation within that area. So I think community and cooperation and creativity are both really important for us. I'm not going to speak for you, but
no, but they are. They're really important. I mean, I think sometimes there can be a distance between all that language planning and can seem quite theoretical, or you can look at really beautiful looking strategies, but it's actually what happens when you're working with different people that is of interest to us. That's where we are. It's listening to the community and working with the community and creating opportunities for people to engage with the language and to play with the language as well. It doesn't always have to be a serious encounter, it can be fun. But yeah, why we got involved with the journal is because you two are persuasive, even though you might not think you are. And we thought, well, we better behave and try our best, so we did.
Yep.
The question put by Dr. Erin McNulty, and the initial replies of Ruth Keggin Gell and Breesha Maddrell of Culture Vannin, whose paper jointly for the journal is entitled Manx Language for All, Community, Cooperation and Creativity in the 21st Century. Also present was the author of another paper, Nicola Tooms of Manx National Heritage, Vannin, whose paper is called Digitising Manx Language Recordings, Manx National Heritage and the British Library's Unlocking Our Sound Heritage project. And her comments were picked up on by Chris Lewin and led into a wider discussion to which Breesha Maddrell also contributed.
I'm Nicola Tooms and I work for Manx National Heritage, and similarly I got involved because I was asked to contribute following on from a talk that I gave at the conference that we had a couple of years ago, specifically talking about the specific case study of the British Museum's their way of working, their methodology for the Unlocking Our Sound Heritage project. So initially I had been a bit reluctant. Well, I thought that maybe it wouldn't work too well, and I had some reassurances because our hub was in Northern Ireland, National Museums Northern Ireland, and they said that they did have some other language recordings in their archives. But as it turns out, the British Museum's methodology wasn't quite so suitable for the Manx language recording. So that's what my article is about. It's about discussing how it kind of mapped on when you're talking about minority languages. In particular, the project like at its heart, it very much used a volunteer workforce to help listen to the recordings and describe the recordings, and it's very skilled work, especially if you're listening to very old recordings, not in a language that is your first language. And I make some comments about the use of volunteers for doing skilled work, and the sort of moral ambiguities of asking people to do skilled labour for free is like one area, and then also whether that in actual fact works or not. And so that was a particular the angle that I was looking at it from. And yeah, I'm not academic, so thank you to Aaron and Chris for helping with the article. So.
Well, thank you very much for writing it down for all three of you.
Yeah, I'd maybe pick up on that point as well. I was going to say something else, but I think that point of moral ambiguities and also the political aspects of the work we're involved in, the realities of austerity and so on, and the pressures that has put on not just on budgets of organisations, but all of us as individuals in our private lives having less time and resources to put into language revitalisation, but still being expected to be positive and putting involved in all sorts of projects and festivals and things. Awesome as this festival and everything we're involved in is, to be reminded that we should be interrogating things, we should be interrogating power structures and how levels of resourcing and questioning maybe not people that are involved in language organisations or even academics and so on, but the bosses of universities, the people in charge of the treasury and so on in the Isle of Man, and reminding ourselves that there are these more thorny questions and not just to be sort of being forced to be positive all the time. I think as early career, what are we supposed to call ourselves? Early career researchers. is basically what we are, both having done PhDs in the last 5 years or so, and then going on to potentially relatively short-term jobs and so on, and not having security. And that's similar in maybe the cultural industries and heritage, and we're all sort of in the same boat in that respect. And we do highlight that in the introductory essay, where we cover a few things that are not in the rest of the issue, just for sort of completeness and to highlight other things that could be looked at. And I think this phrase hope labour, we're feeling ourselves having to do this sort of thing, and it's great that we've done it. I think it's important, but it's also for us something we've been putting a lot of our spare time into, emailing people and following things up and writing our own bits and so on. So yeah, I don't know if any of that.
Yeah, I think I stopped short of saying that the project was completed on goodwill. From a professional perspective, I couldn't really say that, but I think a lot of language efforts, because most of the people who are involved really care about Manx and have that internal love and desire to see it flourish. But there's certainly a problem with basing your kind of revival on the goodwill of people and volunteers to go the extra mile, because if nothing else you just get burnt out.
So it's knowing that you need that mixture of paid people and people who are volunteering. One thing that we find, because if you're working in cultural revitalisation in general, it can be an exhausting profession, because you're constantly having to build that hope and share that hope and try and get that with the community and get people excited. But it helps sometimes if you have studied the cultural history of your country. So I look back at the early days of the Manx language and cultural revival, and people had it a lot tougher than we have it now. And that gives me a lot of strength from that, because there are people like Sapphira Morrison desperately trying to give up her work for Shiaght Laa, the Manx Language Society, because she had really bad eyes. And every time she wanted to retire from that, in purely voluntary, somebody else left, and she couldn't leave because she had to be there, because she loved it, because it was important. So yeah, there is a mixture of knowing that you're part of a bigger story. People have had it tougher than you. People might have it tougher than you in the future, but also not to underestimate the pressures on people now, and know that there are lots of people out there who support the language and culture because they love it, because it's important to them, but also that it needs support as well.
There were some interesting contributions by Professor Julius Salabank of the School of African and Oriental Studies of the University of London, but they were via a Zoom link and it was difficult to get a good recording of that. I'll see if I can improve on it, and perhaps we'll hear from that in a future edition of Shiaght Laa. Chris Lewin invited questions or comments from the floor, and so we hear contributions from people who were there and the responses from Breesha and Ruth.
Maybe it would be good to take some questions from the floor, if we have any. You can address them to us in general or to a specific author.
Hi, I'm a primary school chess teacher in Ireland, and I'm teaching in a Gael school, and I'm getting kids to write down about learning chess for the school year, and I heard that the Welsh. Do you have things like activities for reviving, like where people could go to a tennis tournament and they're writing down about the tennis tournament activities? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to lecture halls or books, do you have kind of functions where you could get people to go out? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Practice, putting into practice the language. Do you have people to do that?
I work as Manx Language Development Officer for Culture Vannin, or Ingrainada, the encourager and motivator. One of the things within my role, as well as teaching adult classes and developing resources and things like that, is a lot of community work as well.
Activities, kind of like
activities. Yeah, so like doing things that are targeted. For example, one of the things we do is we sort of coordinate the Coosh, which is a Manx Language Festival, and this year is called Coosh Vua at the end of September. And when there have been different events in the past, there's been things like where they've been delivered through Manx, but it's not didactic, it's actually just that Manx is the carrier language, as it were, so people will learn things through that. For example, cocktail making in Manx, or song workshops or something like that. It doesn't have to be something that you're coming to a lesson or a class where it just feels like it's a learning point. So it's really important to have that range, and there's lots more to do for sure, but that's a really important thing to do, yeah, definitely.
There's a lot through music, quite naturally. Rob is the Manx Language Officer in the schools, and he's been starting to look at the links with sport, because I think we have a lot to learn with how you're using the language in that context.
Yeah, I mean,
quite a lot of our article was about the different activities, so trying to extend Manx into different domains. So it's been quite often linked here with calendar customs and traditions, and quite sort of that set of pagan beliefs. And so Ruth has done quite a lot of work working with different church groups so that they can use them in Taizé chants in a simple way in that setting. So you're extending the different groups of people who can connect with the Manx language. I think that is really important, that it isn't just seen that it's for one kind of person. And I think that's something that we talk about, is creating opportunities for people. The central thing that we say at Culture Vannin is that there should be access points to the culture, not just the language, for everybody. And your access point would be different to your access point, which would be different to your access point. But you might meet.
And it might be like, sort of, for example, the idea to kind of create more church resources like Taizé chants. So for anyone who's not heard of Taizé, it's like very short, quite folk-like, 2 or 3 lines at a time, very cyclical, they get repeated a lot. That sort of idea to do more Manx for worship didn't come from me per se. It was because 2 different separate preachers came to me, one from the Methodist Church, one from the Church of England, and said, we'd like to use more Manx in churches, but we don't know how. Have you got any ideas? And then that was from that, kind of just I mind mapped a few ideas and went to them and said, what about doing this, and I'll lead you some stuff. And then did, and then that's kind of kept its life going without me having to then run things, because the Taizé chants have got sound files in a specific area. It's all in the article about this anyway, but hopefully it then just gives people the resources, but also the confidence to do something. Maybe not starting doing the entire Lord's Prayer in Manx, but they're starting to say little bits, and it's sometimes just that entryway, as Breesha said, into it. So it's listening to the community as well as coming up with ideas. So I set up a summer school. This is the 4th year of it this year, so I set it up 3 years ago. And that was because I've been to summer schools and I love summer school. And I would have really liked that when I was at university. I didn't start learning Manx till I was 23 from scratch. And I'd really liked that. So we chatted about it and then set that up and things. So that was in response to something I wanted to see, but then other things happened as a response to what the community wants to see.
I think the thing, like, we're probably, I think we can agree that we're ahead with the Irish language over where you are with Manx at the moment, but we still have our issues and our problems. And I think one of the things is the access points we might think we need in our head aren't always the access points that people want.
Yeah.
And especially when you're talking about smaller numbers. So listening to our communities is very important. And obviously the access points to people who are on the ground in the island where the language originates. But I think one of the things, obviously the reason I'm here and some of the others that are here today, you've added an Irish language aspect to the course that's happening, and we're learning Manx. And I think the importance of reaching out to the other language communities that we're related to, that had similar struggles in the past, those connections are very important, because the phrase leaning on the shoulders of giants, not necessarily saying we're giants in the Irish language, but, you know, being the second to something is often being the best, and replicating that and trying to learn, you know, everything's not going to be the same. You're going to do stuff that we're going, oh, we'd love to do that, that's a great idea. There's stuff that you can learn from us as well. So I think not thinking one-dimensionally about something, but there's a bigger world out there. Like, one of the great things that's happened in the Irish language over the last couple of years is there's more and more people who have no Irish roots. Like, I know people from New Zealand, I know people from France, there's people from England, loads of different countries who are more fluent than the Irish themselves in the Irish language. And that's a brilliant thing. So I think that opportunity, don't lose that in the back of your heads, because that's where you can really grow the language, because those people are, in a lot of cases, linguists who are of other languages and want to help as well. So I think that's important.
And that is part of the story of the revitalisation of Manx, that we've learnt a lot from Ireland, from Scotland, from Wales, from all around the world as well. Because if we can beg, borrow or steal and then make it suit the situation here, that's how it's happened. That's happened through the pioneering work in the schools, but also in community work and with festivals in particular. So it's really, really important. I think what the world can learn from a Manx situation is that you might have a small voice, but it deserves to be heard. You can be small but mighty. And I think that is a really important thing.
Part of the general discussion at the launch of the International Journal of the Sociology of Language, in which we heard Director of Culture Vannin Breesha Maddrell and Culture Vannin's Manx Language Development Officer Ruth Keggin Gell. Now some other musical dates. The Parish of Russian Summer Concert season continues this evening, Thursday the 20th of August, in St Catherine's Church in Port Erin. At 7:30 there'll be an evening of folk music with Rob and Paul. That's Rob Middleton on mandolin and Paul Reynolds singing and playing guitar, and the emphasis very much on melody and harmony. Admission is free, and there'll be refreshments available at the end of the concert, with a retiring collection. That's Rob and Paul with an evening of folk at 7:30 this evening in St Catherine's Church in Port Erin. This Sunday afternoon, the 23rd of August, at 3 o'clock, the Villa Marina Arcade will be the setting for another in the Isle of Man Arts Council's Art in the Arcade initiative, with a concert in the summer music season, this time to be given by the Ramsey Town Band's Tuesday Tutors. The Tuesday Tutors are an enthusiastic group of adult learners who get together, as the name suggests, on a Tuesday there in Neptune Street in Ramsey for happy and friendly sessions of brass playing, and they'll be bringing that feeling of fun and enjoyment to the Villa Marina Arcade in Douglas at 3 o'clock this Sunday, the 23rd of August. All the Arts Council's summer music season concerts are completely free. Moving ahead to Wednesday, the 26th of August, the Arts Council's summer music season brings Keith Simpson to the Wurlitzer in the Villa Marina Arcade. That'll be a lunchtime concert starting at 1 o'clock. Keith Simpson knows the Wurlitzer very well indeed, being a leading light in and administrator of the Friends of the Isle of Man Wurlitzer. Also on Wednesday, the 26th of August in Douglas, the St Thomas's Wednesday evening concerts present the Shenanigans Folk Group, bringing a light-hearted approach to a selection of folk songs, shanties and the like, with their leader Andrew Holmes. The concert starts at 7:45. Admission is free, but a donation towards the work of the church would be welcome. And afterwards there's the opportunity for a chat over refreshments. That starts at 7:45 on Wednesday the 26th of August in St Thomas's Church in Douglas, a concert with the Shenanigans Folk Group and their leader Andrew Holmes. Ach Sinead Vain Chi'r Shaw, but that's it now from this time. And so from me, Bob Carswell, Ys Mursaw Von Peen, Robert a Carslach, Sled Ned.